Okay, one of the things I wanted you to get oriented with is the idea of the gradient stops here in Illustrator. And what we're zoomed in on here is actually border of an object. And what we're learning here is that manipulating gradients for borders or strokes is much more sophisticated than for fills because you have more options of how they behave. You can see this is our path, and this path, as you can see, is a 30-point path as per the instructions in the textbook. This is the gradient slider, which is showing us the gradient stops. Now, when we say gradient slider, that's this bar right across here, which is showing us how the colors are combined and in what positions on the object to create this effect. And so with the object selected, I can go over here and we see that this is a gradient slider or gradient stop. And as I move it, watch what's happening to our object over here. See how it's changing the appearance of the gradient. Okay? And we can do that with all of these things, and you can get some very powerful effects. Now, when we're dealing with the stroke and we're looking at the options for how we place them on, we can apply the gradient within the stroke, along the stroke, or across the stroke. Well, let's just take a look and see how those feel, or look how it feels. So if we apply the gradient within, let's see how it changes the look. Notice that it is making it go across the entire object. Okay? So rather than going across, we saw it in this previous scale, it's going this way across the object. Notice it's much smaller, but when we use it along the object, it spans across the whole breadth of the graphic object stroke. And then we apply the gradient along the stroke, and let's see what happens. And that means that it's from the point of origin. So we start from one point and we move around, and I'm going counterclockwise in this example, from one end of the gradient slider's representation to the other. So we start at this point here, and then we move around all the way to here to end up at the black. You have different types of gradients, and this is not going to be evident in terms of this example, but you can have what's called a radial gradient, and these are some of the samples of custom gradients that have been made that are specific to this document. But the different types of gradients are actually over here. This is a linear gradient, meaning that the gradient moves across in a straight line, whereas a radial, you would see, spins out from the center. And you can see this more of an example when we look at the fill. Right now I'm dealing with the fill of the object. I can change it to radial, and you'll see that it moves out from the center point to the outer bounds of the object, creating a radial effect. So anyway, I just wanted to give you a quick orientation to the gradient slider and the gradient stops. These are very, very much something that you will use to give your objects in Illustrator some depth that can't be rendered with flat tones. So I hope you enjoy experimenting with it. I encourage you to take risks. One of the best pieces of advice that I was ever given in my professional life was by a coworker who told me, always just go in and tinker with those tools and see what they can do. And if you really need to see something taken to its extreme example, just take it and slide it all the way to the end. Effects, it's really when you start playing with these tools and watching them move that you get a sense of what they do. So have fun with that, and that's a little quick orientation to the gradient panel.